Noise here?
What's that?
Is it too much noise here?
Let's see. Headphones are preferred, but yeah, if it doesn't seem too bad. I don't really hear
Okay,
much noise.
headphone.
If it gets noisy, you guys can always mute your mics if you have stuff going on. It's no biggie. Whatever you guys want.
Okay.
Whatever y'all wish. So, I guess we'll start by, does anybody have any questions about anything or anything you want to say? Because I don't want this to be like where I'm just going to preach at you the whole time. If you guys are interested, if you guys have things to say, please feel free to ask and say whenever you wish. Sometimes it's hard when there's lots of people. So if I don't see that you're saying that, you can always raise your hand. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll make a mental note. But starting off, does anybody have any questions or anything they want to say? No? You're all enlightened masters already, see?
Of course not.
See, just one video call with me and you get to be already enlightened masters. Just don't start your holy businesses. Do it for free if possible. If possible. It's no biggie though. That's just my opinion. I feel like in this day and age, me speaking out against people charging money for material or psychological things does more harm than good. Because in the Western world, we grow up and it's literally ingrained in our DNA. We don't know anything else. And it's hard to survive sometimes without money. So these people love spirituality, they love psychology, and they do the best they can. So I'm not judging anybody, but for myself, I would prefer not to do it. Because a lot of the people I know who do it, they do it in a balanced way, which is nice. But when I speak about it, I'm usually speaking against the people who are making $70 million a year and saying that they are for selflessness. Like, I can name names, but I won't because, like I said, I've already driven the nail further than it could go with the topic. If you followed any of my other channels or YouTube pages, but anyways, it doesn't matter. Charge whatever you want. Don't charge. I don't care. But as long as you're a good person living a simple life, that's all that matters. If I was ever in a position where I didn't have money, I would go on the street and wash car windows, hold a sign for my family that says I need money, I need donations. I would do that. There's no problem in that. So it's a balance. I think in my younger years, I saw too many people abusing it. So then my balance got out of whack and I became really against anybody charging anything. But then one of my teachers smacked me in the face and said, don't get too attached to your high horse, to your goodness, what your idea of goodness is. Don't even get attached to goodness. And he brought me back down to earth. So now I'm mindful because my old habits, they speak and then I catch them and I go, oh yeah, don't get too full of yourself. Don't get too ahead of yourself. So anyways, yeah, and that's actually a good topic. In Buddhism, they call it dana, which is charity, means charity. And actually, in Thailand, the Buddhist monks, I believe if they're named bhikkhu, it literally translates into one who begs. So don't quote me on that. But that's the thing with Buddhism too. That's the thing and it's not just Buddhism. I'm not even teaching Buddhism. Buddhism is just a word, you know. I like the word better, Dhamma, because it just means the truth of reality is what we're trying to get at. And I don't know about any of you guys, but my truth of reality is trying to be satisfied here and now, to be peaceful here and now, to not want for something yet another thing out there that I want but I don't have. And that's how Western society plays these games, tricking us, manipulating us, always brainwashing us to have the mindset, the culture ingrained in us that we're not good enough as we are. But the truth of the matter is, you're all, each one of you, perfect, just the way you are. All these problems in life stem from the false assumption that something always must be done. There must always be some type of work, some type of goal, some type of thing, some type of scheme, some type of manipulation. It's like, no, nothing need be done. Sure, on some level, we have responsibilities. We have maybe children. We have jobs. We have promises we've made to people. Sure, on some level, we have things we must do. But ultimately, on a bigger scope, aside from taking care throughout our day of a little tiny physical things, paying a bill, meeting a friend, whatever, aside from that, there's really not much to do. And all one has to do to see this point is scroll TikTok, scroll Instagram, especially if you're following the spiritual teachers, because you're scrolling and they've all run out of things. First of all, they don't know what they're saying. Second of all, they've all run out of things to say. So now when you do see them, it's, oh, there's a great miracle if we breathe through our right nostril 15 and a half times, then this one 15 and a half times. And these people pay money, they buy these things, and nothing happens. They breathe a little better, which is like, they're teaching you how to breathe. They're teaching you how to think. They're teaching you how to walk. They're teaching you how they want to pay thousands of dollars to go to a retreat that you could just do in your house or go to the forest. You know, they're teaching us things. They've run out of things to say, things to teach, things to do, and they never had a clear foundation of what they were teaching anyway. So if I was teaching, what would my clear foundation be? Simple. The Buddha constantly said in the Pali Canon, he was interested in one thing and one thing only. Dukkha, dukkha nirodha. There is dissatisfaction. You've heard it translated as suffering, but the better translation is dissatisfaction. It's less dramatic. It gives us more an idea that we might be able to actually control it. And maybe not control is the wrong word, but to gently nurture, gently change. Dukkha dukkha nirodha. There is suffering and the cessation of suffering. There is dissatisfaction and the cessation of dissatisfaction. How do we do this? We do this, how do we change dissatisfaction into satisfaction, the Buddha said? Through the Eightfold Noble Path. Remembering, sati, or in the English translation, mindfulness. Remembering to look with the right view. And what are we looking for? We're looking for the baby dissatisfactions coming up in our mind. So we see dissatisfaction and we change it. How do we change it? With the right amount of effort. And what is the right amount of effort? The right amount of effort is just enough effort to change it and no more. It's not something you need to bang your head against the wall constantly. So the right amount of effort. So how do we change it with the right amount of effort? With our inner and outer speech, nurturing wholesome speech and actions. And with the right unification, I'm running out of fingers, but 6, with the right unification, which would be translated in other translations as concentration, but the right unification of bringing it all together, the looking, the effort, the action, the speech, and thereby we develop a good attitude. We develop the piti, the wow factor of, wow, I actually can do this. It is possible for me to change the unwholesome thoughts, feelings, emotions into wholesome. And thereby, number 8, we're living the right livelihood. We're developing the right livelihood through all of these things. And that's what it is. It's not complicated. It's It's just don't worry, be happy. Something arises, we remember to look. For instance, if I'm agitated, if I'm anxious, I remember because I've been practicing, I remember to look, oh, there's some anxiety here. So with my wholesome, nurturing speech that we used to get when we were babies, but then we grew up and we don't get that nurturing speech from anybody usually. So what do? We talk to ourselves like we wish the nurturing parent would, with compassion, wholesomeness, nurturing. We say, oh, there's anxiety. Hello, anxiety, my old friend. Hello, Mara. It's good to see you. It's no big deal that there's anxiety here. We're partly human body, and human bodies have wild thoughts, feelings, and emotions that go up and down. It's nobody's fault, you know? And immediately with this wholesome speech, we say, wow, it's these feelings, this baby dukkha we're plucking out as it's a little plant. And before we used to let it grow into a big, thick oak tree. It's much more difficult to get out. But now we can say with our nurturing actions, our wholesome thought, our wholesome speech, now we're learning to transform it with the holy alchemy, turning lead into gold. The physical with the spiritual, the outer with the inner. But now we're starting all this little alchemical stuff, and it's bringing together the two worlds. But where there usually was just a world of samsara, a world of born into happiness one minute, born into hell the next minute, born into anger the next minute, and everything in life is just a mind moment. One moment I feel fear, one moment I feel anxiety, one moment I feel happiness, one moment I feel like I'm somebody. I feel like I'm a football player, architect, whatever my job is, I feel like I'm that. Whatever my name is, I feel like I'm that. And we're born and we die constantly throughout our day into these things throughout our mind moments. And this was the reincarnation that the Buddha was referring to. And what I'm teaching you guys now is called the Noble Dhamma. It was something that's hidden for a long time in the Theravada Thailand tradition because in their culture, they believe in ghosts. In their culture, they've always been very ritualistic. So it was because of its simplicity, because of the Noble Dhamma's teaching of its simplicity, the Noble Eightfold Path. Don't worry, be happy. Don't sweat the small stuff, everything's small stuff. Because of its simplicity, people don't have the ability to understand it or grasp it for whatever reason. But they're very good at grasping bullshit. So a lot of wise teachers after the Buddha died, they had to change some things into bullshit just to help people the best they could. For instance, if they're explaining these things to the common people back in the day, they don't understand it. Like, what? Change my mind, But what they do understand through their culture is, burn some incense and you'll get blessings in heaven that you won't even see here. And they go, really? Yeah. And you'll have a good rebirth. You'll have a good rebirth if you make
We
certain.
burn some.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with incense. I like incense myself. But
Yeah, me too.
there's nothing wrong with it. But if you think you're burning incense and it's going to change something in the heavenly realm, it's only good insofar as you're setting up boundaries for people who have yet to truly grasp the noble Dhamma. Because what I just was explaining, that's called the mundane Dhamma. And that's what they teach in Thailand to most people. Not because they're better or worse, but because most people only understand through their culture. They only understand the rituals. They only understand the mundane teachings. And the Buddha they'd say, rites, rituals, and magical thinking, superstitions, this is not Buddhism. This is not the Dhamma. This is not truth. And why wouldn't it be truth? For example, in the mundane Dhamma with metta, they have um, they have mantras, certain mantras that they say. May all people be blessed. May all people be well. Blah blah blah. And the people saying it think that it's doing some good, and it is, but it could do more good if you actually helped someone with metta, because metta means actions of loving kindness and compassion. And because the mundane explanation only goes in so far as it's almost like prayer. If you see a starving dog on the street, the mundane method would say in a way, "Oh, let's pray for the dog that he gets food." But the supra mundane method, which I'm teaching you, would say, "Let's go buy some food. Let's go find some food and feed the dog ourselves instead of praying for it. Instead
But
of
isn't it, sorry.
go no, go ahead."
No, I think, isn't it the best to combine both of those elements?
Right. And there's not the game in Buddhism of rules, you know. It's about gladdening the mind here and now.
Mhm.
In the old mundane teaching, they're creating fantasy worlds. In the old mundane teaching, they're creating the actual thoughts of rebirth, the actual heavens with the mandalas, the actual hells, the actual gods and goddesses and all these things, and angels and devils, just like Christianity. And that's why a lot of Westerners, that old mundane teaching can't appeal to them. And it's not that it's wrong. It's not that it's something that you should or shouldn't do. But understand this, with the supramundane teaching, it's almost for like the adults, for the people who want to cut through the mumbo jumbo and just tell me what to do. It's the ones who are saying, let's get to the bone of the situation. Let's get to the marrow of the bone. And not many people can handle that. But my teacher started teaching us the supramundane teachings because in Thailand and around the world, the supramundane teachings are being lost. And now only these old mundane teachings are existing, which is no problem. But we can't forget the foundation that sprung up these beautiful mundane teachings. And what is the foundation? The foundation was not something magical or superstitious. The foundation was something extremely practical. And it may sound like kind of a downer at first, especially for Westerners. Like, that sucks, it's just like this practical stuff. But actually, there couldn't be anything more magical than how simple, how utilitarian, how user-friendly gladdening the mind right here, right now could be. For instance, if I'm smelling a beautiful flower in the field, my mind is satisfied, no? If I'm just walking in the field and I notice the beautiful wind on my neck, I'm satisfied in that moment, but it's an accidental satisfaction. What we're doing here, not with work, but with a type of play, a joyful play, with ease, something that's easy, we're training ourselves, we're training the mind to get into states like that more easily and to not be affected by the baby dissatisfactions that may arise. So for instance, like my example, when I'm smelling the beautiful flower, where does Buddhism go? Where does mundane philosophy or practice go? Where does supramundane practice go? Where does meditation go? Where does my name go? Where does my ego go? Where does anything go? Where does birth go? Where does heaven? Where does hell go? Where does black? Where does white? Where does right? Where does wrong go when I'm satisfied? Here and now in this moment, smelling a beautiful flower. The point of what I'm trying to teach all of you is that's Zen. But it goes farther than Zen. It's like the old saying, when you're smelling a beautiful flower, it's like a Zen mind is good. but an empty mind is better. So when we're enjoying something, when we're satisfied here and now, where does anything go? Where does birth or death go? We go beyond birth and death. We go beyond Namarupa, name and form, into Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, being, awareness, loving to be. When we're smelling the flower and when we're satisfied, time stops, everything stops, right? But for a normal, quote, normal person, they handle the smelling of the flower either by happenstance, by accident. They smelled it, enjoyed it, and don't think anything of it. Or they smell the flower. Oh, I really like that flower. Oh, I got to go in this field and smell more. And oh, I can't go to that field because it's raining today. And they're causing a whole bunch of world of problems. But the master, the enlightened person, knows it's not the flower, really. It's your mindset. It's your attitude, right attitude. It's your right effort in gladdening the mind here and now. There's not always going to be flowers. We're not always going to have lots of money. We're not always going to have reality do exactly what we wish it would do. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes we get lucky, sure. But really, if we have the superpower of getting in the habit of gladdening the mind here and now, in a way we're becoming like gardeners of the mind and the heart, right? For some people just hearing these things, you start off with a plot of land, and there may be brambles and bushes and snakes and rabbits who will eat your vegetables. And it's like, here, fix the land. And you're a gardener, you're a farmer, and you're saying, I can't do anything with this land. There's shit all over the place. I don't know what to do. But you have a master. The gardener, your friend, teaches you. You have a handbook, right? You have a book that says gardening for beginners. Okay. And it's not rocket science. It's some hard work, but it's not hard work in the sense that you don't like it. Because when we know that we have fruit to bear from our labor, we learn to enjoy it. We learn to whistle while we work. And the good thing is, the work, it seems like play. If we're excited, if we have the right attitude, if we have the wisdom to see that this is the only work that's valuable. Some people may say, no, it's my job, it's my CEO, it's my art career, it's this, it's that. No, if you're not happy, if you're not peace, if you're not satisfied, what good is all your tilling in the soil? That's a fool's errand. And that's how most people live their lives. Busy a whole lifetime until they die. And it seemed maybe like they're happy. Oh, I'm on yachts, I'm on TV, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But the whole time they're like a zombie, unaware of the activity that's going on in front of their face. Sure, they remember it to some degree, but they were never really present to begin with, so they can't really enjoy it. And that's why they become addicted to drugs and alcohol and all types of things. Usually end up in death anyways. So we start off with
usually.
Yeah, just like
Usually it's good.
happens all the time. So we have this garden, and it seems a bit too much at first, but the gardener is there helping us. The book is there, How to Garden. And we learn a little bit. You don't have to learn the whole book. You don't have to listen to everything the master says, the gardener says. But take what's useful. Start to get in the habit of gardening. Pull out some weeds here and there. Listen to what he says, read the book, discover things for yourself. And eventually, over time, what happens? Like anything else in life, you become better at it. It becomes easier. It becomes more joyful. And you become good at it. But sometimes where people mess up is they begin to have this beautiful garden of the mind, and the baby weeds, the baby dukkha, the baby dissatisfaction begins to rise again, the baby weeds, the rabbits eating the vegetables. And they go, I did everything the master said, I did everything the book said, I gardened for a year now, and still these rabbits are eating, and still the weeds are coming up. Yes, of course, that's the nature of a garden. There's always going to be baby dukkhas. If you think you'll get to a point of a saint or some holy man or woman where you're never going to experience any baby dukkhas arising, it's fooling yourself. You're human. Therefore, you have dukkha all the time. you have up and down, and that's how the thoughts, feelings, emotions work in the physical body. It's just biology, really. As the bird flies, the human suffers because he's a sensitive creature. But get used to the baby dukas. Once your garden is set, once you've practiced, once you got some practice under your belt, everything gets easier. And you're not taking out big trees like you were at the beginning. You're taking out the baby dukas as they arise. And we come back to the breath, here and now. And we realize that there wasn't even any real baby dukas. And we get into what they call samadhi type state, which basically just means like a calm mind. We get into a calm mind, and then it doesn't last. And don't get dissatisfied when it doesn't last. Remember that it's natural. Just like the baby plants coming up in the gardener's garden. Of course, the weeds are going to grow again. That's nature. And that's what the Buddha taught us. Of course, we're going to have baby dukas. Even on his deathbed, he had pain. He saw Mara. Mara, which is it's like the allegory for dissatisfaction, the world of samsara, desire, negative attachments. And he said, aha, I see you, Mara, even on his deathbed. But he had the wisdom to see her, recognize her, greet her with compassion and nurturing speech and action as she vanished. And he was used to that his whole life. So as he's dying, a little weed popped up and he said, oh, I love these little weeds. I'm gonna sure miss them once I'm dead. And he turned it into a beautiful situation. And that's what we're doing. You'll get into these samadhi states as you practice spirituality. You will get into these peaceful states. They might last a day or two, sure, but they won't last forever. That's what the Buddha taught us. Nothing lasts forever. Everything is anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanent, dissatisfactory by nature, and inherently empty. Empty of a soul. And why is it a soul? I was talking about this the other day. What does a soul do? It's a spaceship. It's a transportation device, a soul. What does it do? Where does it travel? The soul travels to heavens, to hells, and most importantly, the soul travels to the past and to the story because the soul has a story. We get obsessed with ourselves, and this is the ego. You can switch it to ego. It's probably easier for Westerners to understand. It's not a soul. The Buddha called it a soul, but for the same reason that we call it an ego. Because we get obsessed with it. It does travel to the past. It does worry about the future. It does think of metaphysical heavens and metaphysical hells. And it's not that thinking about these, what happens after the body dies, does our soul go to heaven or hell? It's not that it's necessarily bad. But the Buddha had the wisdom to recognize it doesn't matter. If I'm in hell now, what does it matter if there's a hell future? This is all delusions in my mind. It's something that doesn't exist. And that's why they call it the Dhamma, the truth of nature, because it's right here, right now. And that's why the Buddhists always emphasize the breath at the tip of the nose, because it's just like pointing to the earth. We're all the elements anyways. So when we come back home, come back to the peaceful doorway that's always available to us of the breath, everything else in this delusional world vanishes. And sure, we can only stay a short time. You get good at it, like I said, the samadhi, and you stay there a day or two, whatever. But it comes back, the baby dukkha. And then the magical part is rinse and repeat, the wonderful part. And it says it on all the shampoo bottles. Rinse and repeat. And we'll do that to the day we die. And this way, we're staying satisfied. We know what the dukkha is. We know the dukkha is just this dog shit. It's just nutrients for our garden. We're taking these little dukkas and the plants die and they bring nutrients to our garden as we pluck them out. It's not bad. Suffering is not bad. Dissatisfaction is not bad if you use it wisely, as it should be used. Say, but isn't it natural to just use it shittily? Like, no, that's society so that they sell more things with corporations. You're too fat, you're too ugly, you need a gym membership, you need a new car, you need to get more women with a bigger house, and this and this and this. They want their jobs to make you feel miserable. There's nothing natural about that. That doesn't exist. It exists now because of ignorance, avidya. People misunderstanding the Dhamma, the truth of nature. Chasing things, chasing dissatisfaction. Manure is good for our garden. Dog shit is good for our garden. But society has been out of balance. That's why Buddha called it the middle way. Society's rolling in their own dog shit. And I'm teaching you, no, that's disgusting. Instead, take the beautiful dog shit and use it sparingly in your garden to add nutrients, to have a healthy garden, a healthy mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's like drinking.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
information, you know. Or actually, it's empty.
It's a whole lot of. It's a whole lot of. It's a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's almost too simple. That's why the Buddha called it the noble Dhamma. Even his closest student, Ananda, would say, "Oh yeah, Buddha, I understand what you're saying." He said, "No, you don't, Ananda." Because Ananda still believed in gods and heavens and doing rituals. And he said, "You don't understand. You're close, but you don't understand. The Dhamma is subtle. It is profound. Only the most noble can attain it because of its simplicity." Because of its simplicity. Think about that. How wonderful. You know. And what is this simple thing we're saying? The whole Pali Canon and all its hundreds of books and texts, it comes down to one thing. Dukkha dukkha nirodha. The Buddha said, from here and now till eternity, I care about one thing and one thing only. Dukkha dukkha nirodha. There is dissatisfaction in getting rid of dissatisfaction. Because if I'm not satisfied now, if I don't get into a practice that gives me the most satisfaction in my life, what am I doing? It doesn't matter if you become a tennis player if you're dissatisfied, if you become an astronaut if you're dissatisfied. What's the point of pursuing anything if you're not satisfied? And he learned, beautifully, satisfaction comes from nurturing, compassion, forgiveness, wholesomeness, living a simple life. And you don't even necessarily need to talk. Silence of the heart, just remaining calm in all conditions. Sure, the body will get sick one day. Sure, it will die one day. That's okay. It's not a problem. It's just change anyway. It's not really death. There is no death. There's only life anyway. What we call death is just changing of molecules. But what about my personality? But what about my soul? Oh my God, what will I do without it? You could barely remember what you had for dinner 2 weeks ago. You will miss the past so much. When we lay down to go to sleep, we give up our whole life every night. We give up our whole childhood, our family. Gladly we do it because it's peaceful to sleep, and especially when you're having deep and dreamless sleeps. There's nothing better. That's our true nature, you know? And we can experience it in the waking state when we don't take things so seriously. The play of Leela too seriously. But do you guys have anything else you want to say? Because that's basically all of my spiel for the day.
Yeah. No, I think it's
Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
I think everything is just happening in your mind. No, so you tell me so about the story, yeah. So about explain your story, your past life. If you open your third eyes, you can saw your past life, a lot of story, but that's just the human, yeah. So the most people think, soul, I have a soul because soul is a long memory. Yeah, that is like counselors. That's just information for the human body. Yeah. So if we need to log out this mastery or system, this like system, yeah, in the earth, hold drama like system, yeah. So if you want log out this system, just just become the observers. Watch everything. Watch yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Watch this world. And everything is just happening in your mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you let everything is go and just in this moment, you can feeling what is the truth, is your real self. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my experience. Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's here and now. If we can't
Yeah.
find peace, like Dogen said, if we can't find peace right where we are, right where we sit, where will we find it? In the future? That's why the soul is like a spaceship, because how does time work? It's physical objects in relation and proximity to each other, in relation to each other. And
Yeah.
the measurement of that speed and space between the two objects, or three or four, or a myriad of objects, that's time. So when we have a soul, when we have an ego, we're creating a character, and what does the character do? It travels through time. Because in our mind, we think it's a physical vehicle, but it's not. It's empty inherently. Sure, on some level we exist. On some level we have a past and a future. Sure. You'll be crazy if you walk around and say, I'm nobody. I'm no like Jim Carrey. I'm nobody. He's right. But at the same time, you have to use your brain, It's like, sure, on some level we exist, but not really. On closer examination, it's easily disproven that we don't exist in the sense that we think. And that's great news, because I no longer have to think and philosophize and pine and perish about the past or the future, or maybe there's some heaven, maybe there's some hell. I don't know. I don't care. What good does it do me here? But if I can gladden my mind and say, hey, maybe there is a heaven when I die, maybe there's a hell, I don't know. Who cares? I feel free already just saying that. Nobody knows. If they tell you they know what happens when you die, they're lying.
Well, you can
That's
already live in heaven right now.
Yeah. If I could live in heaven here, if I'm
yes, yes.
Yeah, satisfaction by its definition means you're not quenching for
That,
anything else. You're not searching for anything. You're satisfied,
yeah,
you know?
that is why we're still here.
Yeah,
Like a circle.
yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes I live in this moment. I watching everything in my eyes. Sometimes I think this is illusion
Mm,
because my eyes look everything
yeah.
like it's not real.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Like a thousand million the the dog.
Yeah.
I I don't I can explain how I feeling, but I think this is illusion. Yeah.
It
Mhm.
is.
So yeah. So just like a big game, and we just experience in my mind and experience everything. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
So
complete illusion. It's like the old saying, the old Advaita Vedanta story of the rope and the snake. A man sees a snake and he gets scared of it, but then when he turns on the light, he sees that there was no snake. It was just a rope. Nothing to be afraid of. And that's how a lot of
yeah.
us live our life. And the snake is the past and the future. The snake is the ego, and we get obsessed, we get afraid, we worry. But if we look, if we examine, have some self investigation, we see, like the Buddha said, anicca dukkha anatta, there's nobody there. And it's not that there's nobody there, yet simultaneously there is. And that's the miracle. That's our true self. It's not that we don't exist and there's nothing. It's that we don't exist, yet there is something here and
Mhm.
now. That's the awesomeness of it. Like, we're so used to it, so accustomed to it, that it becomes just another, I'm alive. But if you really think about it, you're like, holy shit, I'm alive. Like, what the fuck is this? It's great. You know? But the society will teach you, no, don't act like that. Don't think like that. Be serious. Take yourself serious. You got to work. You got to pull up your bootstraps. And before you know it, you forget you're even alive. That's the real death. When you start living too much in the world of man. That's why God said, don't eat too much from that tree of knowledge. And whose knowledge? Society's knowledge. Man's knowledge of good and evil, birth and death, being and becoming, right and wrong, black and white, naked, unnaked. That's society's knowledge. That's true death, if there was such a thing. And we love the chains that bind us, and we give ourselves up as a sacrifice voluntarily to society. That's why there's a lot of correlations between the devil and Jesus and God that really coincide well with a lot of Theravada Buddhist aspects of the super mundane Dhamma teachings. I love you guys.
Thank you, Master.
Anything else to say? Anything?
No.
Yeah, very grateful because I was in these goals. And these superficial goals that, they're just illusions, like you said, right? Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with goals per se. Just as there's nothing wrong really with, let's say, morphine, the medicine, right? If you hurt yourself, the doctors give you morphine at the hospital. They use it in a balanced way to help you as medicine. But the drug addict on the street is putting the morphine in him and becoming addicted and becoming a bum, and is very harmful and causing lots of dukkha for everybody. So goals are not a problem. It's our attachment. We attach too much, out of balance, too much to our goals. You want goals? Have goals. The Buddha had lots of goals. Look at what he did, created one of the world's biggest religions. He was friends with kings. He was at dinners with organizations. He was pro women at a time when they didn't accept women. He was against the caste and spoke out about it adamantly. That's why he's kind of separated from Hinduism and the Brahmins. He was against castes of society of I'm better, you're worse, this woman should do this. And it wasn't perfect. I'm sure if you look through the Pali Canon, you'll find something. Well, he wanted monks and nuns to be separate. Probably so they wouldn't just be fucking each other all day long and not be learning, But that's about it. You just want people get too obsessed with the rules in Buddhism, and they don't see them. No, it's just guidelines. Before we leave really quick, I'll tell a really fast story. There was a master with his student walking along a river. And in this zendo, in this temple, there was a strict rule that no man was allowed to touch a woman, especially the master was not allowed to touch a woman. So he's walking with his student along a river, and he sees a woman drowning who's carrying fish to her family. She drowns in the river. She's drowning. The master doesn't even think. He takes off his clothes, dives into the river, saves the woman, right? And he's walking a couple miles, and the student says, I'm so disappointed in you, master. Why? You can't be my master. You broke our one cardinal rule of our zendo. You're crazy. You're no master. You're a disgrace. And he smacks the student. Whoosh. Says, you fucking asshole. He says, I left the woman back there on the shore safely, and you're still carrying her in your mind. I saved a woman's life. These rules are put in place so we're not playing grab ass all day long, so we're learning the truth of the Dhamma. It's not meant to have a woman drown, but this is the mindset that the society has given us. We're very good students. We're very good at following rules, but they don't fucking teach us to think for ourselves and use the brain that God gave us. That's the master's teaching him. Oh, the rule said this, the rule said this. Fuck your rules, save the person. What good is your rules if it lets a woman drown to death? Fucking moron. But anyways. Anyways, you guys are awesome.
You are
Alright.
awesome.
Take
I'll let
care.
you
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Much peace and love. Thank you
Bye.
all for joining. I
Peace
really
and love.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Master.
Love.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Ciao.